Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to the January 24th, 2015 edition of Wrestle Talk Show. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, bits, rumors, anything and everything wrestling. We cover it, along with my editor-in-chief, Rich, and my resources man, Nathan Lerner, covering the ins and outs of wrestling, covering stories that I can't cover. That way we can bring it to you all at once. We had a production meeting last week, and we decided that we're going to start cutting the videos down to between, I won't cut back any farther than a half an hour, because I feel it takes away from what the program was intended for. But that'll be our mark. We've noticed that there are a few of you that are uniques, especially over in the UK. You guys show us a lot of love. But these hour and a half, 3-hour videos aren't really capturing the attention. And just doing overall, believe it or not, we just did some overall YouTube research, watching other people's page rates who had success, why they had success. That's why I brought in Rich, husband to a girlfriend of mine from high school, who's going to hopefully take this video along with others and remaster them and add more effects and rolling credits. That way they can be complimented too. We'd like to give a shout out to our friends Joe Negron and Mr. Mutant Larry at smartwrestlingfan.com. Their 3-hour podcast of the week in pro wrestling is now up at smartwrestlingfan.com. A tip of the hat to James Codwell and Wade Keller. pwtorch.com, almost up to the minute news, wrestling news, whether it be independent or otherwise. ProWrestling.net. Just a smorgasbord. Our friends, the Monster Factory Wrestling Training Center in New Jersey, who trains the likes of ROH, NXT, and WWE superstars. Moving on to our news. Well, first off, how you can reach us. You can reach us by email directly at joshuarzimmerman@gmail.com. That's JOSHARZIMMERMAN@gmail.com. Show questions, promotion questions, whether you want to send you're a wrestler and you want to send your resume to be considered by our parent company, Continental Wrestling Entertainment. We encourage you to do that. Please place in the subject header what your email is all about, so that we can get to it as promptly and effectively as possible. Please do not mix subjects in the emails. If your subject reads resume, then don't let it be a resume plus your opinions on Raw. Send separate emails. Photos are also welcome. Applicants 18 years or older, male or female, equal opportunity employer. You can find us on Facebook.com/CWE Company. That's the company page. Or the Wrestle Talk Show page, Facebook.com/Wrestle Talk Show. One moment. Monkey.
Bye.
You okay?
Yeah.
Again, for Continental Wrestling Entertainment and Mr. Zimmerman's private Facebook page, we encourage Facebook.com/CWE Company. And for the show, where we post daily, where we only videotape shows once a week, and now with our self-inflicted 30-minute rule, hopefully it'll keep the interest and keep us on topics. And like I said, we're basically looking into the last 4 years worth of notes and whatnot, and trying to come out with a special remastered archive list, if you will, where the picture quality is better, the shows are cut down, but the points are still made, and it looks more professional. I think in the next 60 to 90 days, if not sooner, you'll start to see that. You can follow us on, if you're a business associate, you can follow us on LinkedIn.com and search the keywords Joshua Zimmerman or Continental Wrestling Entertainment. When searching YouTube, type in Wrestle Talk Show, Joshua Zimmerman, WTS, and you'll know it when you find it. Our current YouTube page, like I said, we weren't going to bother linking anything up. That has over 3 years worth of content, and this is the 4th year on the new platform. The old platform where you can catch up on everything you missed is youtube.com/CWE Company. And the call-in line, where you can only call in and leave voicemail messages for the show, 267-503-3285. Any number not recognized will be assumed to be that and will not be answered. You're limited to the time frame the voicemail gives you, and try and run through your question, comment, concern before you do it, because before you know it, you'll be out of time. I believe it's 45 seconds. If you want, your interaction helps us make ourselves better, and it's all about the fans. It's why I do this for nothing. It's why we'll continue to do this for nothing outside of our partnerships with YouTube and other things that will make it work. Hopefully this year we plan on launching. I know we have all the materials. I'm actually looking at it in a subfolder right now for a complete line of merchandise, but we're going to enhance that line for 2015 and hopefully get it out to you by hopefully bring it to you by spring, if not definitely by summer, as more and more of you will be outdoors and the weather will get warmer, and cooler merchandise, breathable merchandise will have to be introduced. But here we go. Former WWE wrestler suing WWE for suing against the company for underplaying the risks of concussions in and out of the ring, citing both the company and company doctor downplayed the overall effects of trauma to the head, which includes the all too famous chair shot. On October 17, 2014, a lawsuit filed the week before in the U.S. District Court of Oregon by former professional wrestler William Albert Haynes III, aka Billy Jack Haynes, citing class action status related to head injuries occurring in two former and current WWE wrestlers. Per the lawsuit, Haynes wrestled in the WWE for only 2 years, from 1986 to 88. Perhaps his most noticeable match was at WrestleMania 3. Most of Haynes' career was spent in the Pacific Northwest. The lawsuit spells out the dangers of the professional wrestling business, amplified by embedded photos in its dangerous stunts. Amplified by embedded photos in its lawsuit as well as YouTube links. Essentially, WWE allowed its wrestlers to perform dangerous stunts, some of which include taking shots to the head, causing causing head injuries. The claim made by Haynes' lawyers is that these head injuries cause traumatic brain injuries, i.e. concussions, and chronic traumatic including chronic traumatic encephalopathy, otherwise known as CTE. This, combined with the few other suits against the wrestling giant that have surfaced this week, will hopefully mean a complete and total audit on each wrestler and the effects of concussions, and believing that actually hurting someone makes for good TV. We said this way back in the beginning when the NFL was stiffening its concussion rules, and when the Chris Benoit debate came around, they sort of definitely downplayed that because they wanted to put everything on Chris Benoit. Well, this is where you're going to find out. I don't think Chris Benoit had as much to do with it as WWE would have liked him to have to do with it. The mixture of the injuries, undiagnosed because he was a key player at the time. Hell, I was at the Royal Rumble where he won the right to go to WrestleMania. That big celebration, yeah. But WWE quickly wanted to distance themselves because they didn't want to get into a period. But what you're looking at is a case of doctor neglect, employer neglect, blatant employer neglect when you can honestly say with a good conscience, oh, that doesn't matter. He's wearing our title belt and putting tickets in young fans' hands. His health mattered, and for that you got pick it up.
You can't. I told him to put on the kitty.
And for that you got what you got, which was an undiagnosed variety of head injuries, along with this company mindset to stay fit. We don't care how you do it, just as long as you don't get caught. And if you get caught, we're gonna disavow any knowledge of knowing, kind of like the steroid trial of McMahon and Hogan, but only now it's the scientific world, the medical world that moved up to where you can mask so many of these agents just for pain. And it all reverts back to how many of them, if not all of them, like Benoit, were left with have to stay strong, can't lose time on the road because I'll lose money and the title. You can't have a champion who needs to take a break right after winning the belt. So they pushed Chris Benoit. They pushed Chris Benoit to death. And his father even says, if you look it up, there's a whole YouTube argument from his parents, a very viable argument that when it cuts back to WWE, they don't even want to be associated with, because Benoit had undiagnosed concussions on top of taking steroids. Everybody wants to run real quick and say roid rage. Sure, it didn't help, but 22 years of wrestling just doesn't disappear. First of all, you still show the man's wrestling career homage by respecting that. And if you cared about him, WWE, like you claimed you do or did, you would have gotten him treatment instead of forcing him on the road all the time to push your title. It should have been, no, you're out. We'll make up a storyline to where you keep the title, get these concussions looked at, get us a report so we know what kind of ongoing treatment you're going to need. And who knows, maybe if WWE would have taken that extra step, he'd still be alive. But Vince McMahon and Linda have to sleep with that. Fortunately, me and you don't. Give me one more moment. Monkey? Being good? Good. So yeah, just to summarize, it was only a matter. We've been doing this show for 4 years now, and Good Morning America broke the story on Monday. Or wait, Wednesday. And I kind of seen it, but I kind of posed it as it will come full circle, and it did as soon as the NFL enacted its new policy on playing safer. You can't say one sport with full contact has concussions and not do the kind of work you see on wrestling television. Yes, it may be scripted, the matches may be predetermined, but the work put in is not to make those choreographed moves go off without a hitch, and sometimes there is a hitch. Where we are bigger as promoters is when we step back from the financial gain, which WWE did not in Chris Benoit's case. Step back from the financial gain and think, okay, if this guy blows up right now, we lose what could be potentially 10 or 20 more years with them. Yeah, there's a wellness policy in place, but it's very vague. It fines wrestlers more than it actually weeds out the bad ones. Rey Mysterio doesn't even want, when you have a company where Rey Mysterio doesn't even want to be there anymore, it means you ultimately, outside of his drug problems, you ultimately created a product that not even decent wrestlers want to be a part of, because it's slipping further and further away from wrestling. So yes, to come full circle, they need to get in contact with the NFL and doctors that aren't paid by WWE, third-party doctors, to come up with a treatment plan similar to that in the NFL, because professional wrestling is a full contact sport. And shame on them if they let them slide. I think they should pay these lawsuits, because they've always downplayed anything that's dangerous. Ash draws. And they should get their money. And they should, right after settling, implement a plan to keep it safer. Now, I'm all for it. If you make it too safe, it's not football anymore. If you make it too safe, it's not wrestling. There was an estimated at the Royal Rumble 95 when Rock went against Mankind? 25 consecutive chair shots. And I know Mick Foley back in the day liked to get beat down, but really, while his kids watched, 25, if not more, consecutive chair shots. I don't know. But we do need something. And I'm slighted to say shame on you, WWE, for waiting for the NFL to take the initiative first, when you've been doing this way longer than they have. And more blatantly, like, your wrestlers are, if you suspend disbelief, your wrestlers are out there to hurt one another. Football players, whereas they're only out there to play against each other and hope the best man wins. So step it up, WWE. Last chance. This could be one where you get caught with your pants down again. WWE social pages and Dolph Ziggler take a shot at CM Punk, and CM Punk responds. As noted earlier, Dolph Ziggler took a shot at CM Punk in his promo on tonight's SmackDown. The WWE Universe Twitter account tweeted out Ziggler's line during the show, quote, "I'd rather sit in this ring and face any punishment than sit at home complaining on some podcast." At heel Ziggler #SmackDown. Later that evening, CM Punk responded with a tweet of his own, simply by saying, "Broken arrows," end quote. TNA Feast or Fired update. Dixie Carter comments on Fired knockout. TNA has announced the Biz versus Jeff Hardy in a Monsters Ball match for next Friday's Impact Wrestling. Available at WrestlingInc.com is a preview for next week's show. The Feast or Fired briefcases were revealed on last night's Impact Wrestling, and Velvet Sky was fired after being given a briefcase that was won by Robbie E. Rockstar Spud and Austin Aries received the World Heavyweight title shot. Rockstar Spud and Austin Aries received. Rockstar Spud received the X Division title shot. Magnus received a future tag team title shot, and Austin Aries received a World Heavyweight title shot. Dixie Carter commented on the storyline departure with this tweet: never easy losing someone so talented. Hashtag Feast or Fired at Velvel Holler. And finally, with SmackDown on its new night for a second week in a row on the Science Fiction channel, maybe someday we'll finally understand why professional sports is on a science fiction channel. WWE, how did it fare in its second week at its new time slot on Sci-Fi? Viewership for WWE SmackDown increased once again. At last night's episode, averaged 2.814 million viewers. That number was up 5% from last week's debut in its new time slot, which averaged 2.675 million viewers. And the final SmackDown in its old Friday night slot drew 2.432 million viewers. SmackDown was once again the number one show on cable last night. So, our hot topic of the show, as we make an attempt to cut back on things, is what do you, the fans, think about concussions? How should World Wrestling Entertainment, Ring of Honor, and all wrestling companies handle it, especially WWE, who, like we said 4 years ago, have to see this coming with the undisputable proof that's out there on the internet of Chris Benoit not only having a steroid problem, but multiple undiagnosed concussions, and WWE downplaying them. But we as fans also don't want to see new rules placed that take away from what we grew up in. So comment, share your thoughts directly on this page, on the links at Twitter, on Twitter at CWE Company, JOSHAR Zimmerman at gmail.com, Facebook.com/CWE Company, and Facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow. From there, you can do everything. Thanks again to my friends Rich and Nathan Lerner for their input week to week that make this show. Hopefully the half-hour time slots give you enough, but keep you anticipating more, as we might do one tomorrow. But let us know what you think on concussions, and take into consideration what the WWF has done, or what the NFL has done, and their fear of making the game too kiddie-like but safe, and where you stand in the whole debate. Until then, I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, saying have an excellent day.